and welcome back to 10-Minute Prophecy, where we go through the books of Daniel and Revelation in 10-minute bite-sized chunks that you can easily digest during the day. We left off last time with a cliffhanger. The question was, which method of Bible prophecy interpretation does the Bible support? The reason we ask this is because we don't want to take man's ideas about it, we want to take God's word for it. Let's journey through the prophecy of Daniel chapter 2 to figure this out. If you haven't watched our previous video, please go back and watch it. Now, Daniel chapter 2 starts out with King Nebuchadnezzar having a mysterious dream he could not remember, which troubled him a lot. The king asks for his astrologers, wise men, sorcerers, and Chaldeans. When they were assembled before him, he begins to tell them that he has had a dream, and his command is, first, tell him his dream, and second, interpret it. Now, if your friend asked you to do this, you would think that this was a ridiculous request, right? In fact, what human being would ask such a thing? Why would the king ask this? Well, the king knew that this dream must be from the gods, and his astrologers, wise men, sorcerers, and Chaldeans had claimed that they were the only ones who could communicate to the gods and the dead and know what their will was. In fact, we see this today in our modern day. We have astrologers today who say they read the stars and can see our fate. Does that seem familiar? We also have sorcerers, or those who claim to communicate with the dead. The wise men are similar to the PhD and the scientists who interpret the human condition and scientific data without having God in mind. In Daniel chapter 2 and verse 4, the Chaldeans answer, "O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream and we will give the interpretation." Now, when they said this to the king thinks that they are refusing to tell him what he wants. So the king again says to them, "If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made an ash heap. However, if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, and great honor. Therefore tell me the dream and its interpretation." At this point, this group of men are nervous, and they say again, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will give its interpretation." The king becomes furious because he understood that they were lying about their ability to communicate with the gods, as well as the advice that they were giving him all these years was not from the gods. And so he puts out the death decree for all of this group of men, which Daniel and his 3 friends were a part of. Now, did Daniel and his 3 friends follow astrology, sorcery, or communicate with the gods of Babylon, or talk with the dead? No, let's read on. And so, when the decree went forth, Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, goes out to gather everyone up for execution. But when he comes to Daniel, Daniel asks, "Why is the king so hasty to kill everyone?" Then Arioch tells Daniel everything that transpired in the throne room. So Daniel asks for a presence before the king, and the king allows it. And so Daniel goes in, pleads with the king, and says, "Your Majesty, give me some time, and I will show you the dream and the interpretation." The Bible tells us that Daniel goes home, and he and his 3 friends get on their knees, and they begin to pray that God would show the dream and the interpretation. So then, after they pray, Daniel, that evening, gets the same vision that God had shown to Nebuchadnezzar, as well as the interpretation. Then Daniel wakes up in the morning and immediately blesses the name of God and thanks him for the dream and its interpretation. So Daniel goes first to Arioch and pleads for the wise men of Babylon not to kill them. Isn't that interesting, that Daniel would immediately ask Arioch not to kill the wise men? Why did these people matter to Daniel? This shows us the character of Daniel and also the character of God. Daniel shows compassion and mercy to those that are wrong and who worship other gods. What this teaches us is that it is because of God-fearing people that the wicked are spared. After this, Arioch brings Daniel before the king and begins to tell the king what his thoughts were and what the dream was. Daniel says, "But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days, your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed. Daniel is letting Nebuchadnezzar know that God had given him the dream about the future. He also let the king know that the interpretation was not because of any wisdom he had, or any wisdom that anyone can give, but it was because there is a God in heaven who wanted to show Nebuchadnezzar the truth about the future. Now Daniel begins to proceed to tell the king what the dream was. He says, "You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This image, mighty and of exceeding brightness, stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As you looked, a stone was cut out by no human hand, and it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver and the gold all together were broken in pieces and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." Daniel now begins the interpretation. Now, as promised, we are going to see which method of prophetic interpretation the Bible is using, and this will be the foundation in which we will study all the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. What is that method? Let's see what the words of the prophet says, as this is the interpretation. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power and the might and the glory, and into whose hand he has given, wherever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them all. You are the head of gold. Now, did you catch it? Do you know which method of prophetic interpretation God is saying we should use? Please comment below. This concludes our time together. Join us next time as we continue through Daniel chapter 2. We will also affirm the method of biblical interpretation that is supported by the Bible. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you are enjoying this series so far or have any questions, please comment below. Hope to see you soon.